Hello students, welcome to a video where we are going to discuss about some important tips and tricks to ace your English exam for your boards. My name is Rupa Chatterjee and I'm working with Orchids the International School. Today we will discuss some very important topics and points which will help you fetch good marks in your English paper. And before we start with the video, I would just like to remind you that we are up with a lot of videos for you where not only teachers but also IIT faculties are there trying to help you out with your subjects. Please go through the videos and it is going to be really beneficial for you. So let's start with the video. Today we will discuss how you will prepare for English. And what are our topics for today? Our topics are firstly analytical paragraph, which comes under your writing skills, and within analytical paragraph we will discuss graphs, tables, charts and SWOT analysis, and also we will discuss reading comprehension, unseen passage, both the types, discursive and factual. You all are aware of the tips, of the facts, how you should go by with these topics, but I will help you out more how you can ace these topics. So let's start. Before we begin with the topics directly, let me tell you few important tips that will help you to finish your paper correctly and within time. There are three most important tips that I would like to share with you at the beginning of the video. First is time management. How will you manage time? Firstly, you should know that the paper has 4 sections. Now, comprehension, writing skill, grammar and literature. So you should be very aware how much time you are devoting to each section. That time frame you should have very clear in your mind so that you can finish the work on time. Please utilize your reading time for reading so that you can clarify any doubts that you have before you start your exam. Second, be thorough with the text. Why? Whichever chapter you are going through, whichever topic you are learning, you need to be thorough so that while you are sitting for your exam, you don't have to waste time thinking of what you should write and how you can write. Please be thorough with every text, every poem, poet, author's writing skill, practice reading, everything should be done well in advance. Thirdly, you have to avoid silly mistakes. When you write your answers or your grammar, writing skill, whatever you do, you should always take at least 10-20 seconds to read and reread whether you have done any mistake, whether there are spelling errors, grammatical errors, punctuation errors, because these are very important to frame correct sentences. So it is my suggestion, please go through these 3 important points. Please follow the time, avoid silly errors and also be thorough with whatever you are learning and sitting for your exam. Now first we will begin with analytical paragraph. What is the marking scheme of it? Because it is very important that you know that where you can lose your marks. So before that you have to know how you can score it. So first we have format. Format is for 1 mark. Now, there should be a title for your analytical paragraph. Depends on the topic that is given. You give a title and then you begin writing. So, format 1 mark. If there is no title, you lose half a mark there. Then we have an introduction, we have a content, we have conclusion. Now, that is applicable to your writing skills. You are well aware, but please make sure you give a very suitable title for the topic given for your analytical paragraph. Second is content. Now, content means basically for analytical paragraph you have to describe what is given, because we know that in analytical paragraph we have to analyze, interpret, understand, comprehend and then write. So it's very important that you are clear with the content, you are clear with the topic and you elaborate only what is given. Third is organization. Now, as I told you, analytical paragraph works on interpretation, understanding, comprehension and logic. So your logical reasoning, how much you understand what is given is very important. So we will look for how you organize your paragraph and how you write it correctly. and very concisely, precisely, but it should be crisp and easy. Last, accuracy. Now, accuracy basically calls for the punctuation error, spelling error, grammatical mistakes, or any sentence construction that is going wrong. So please be very careful with all these 4 points, because you can lose mark anywhere. But if you go by the points and you are doing it correctly, you can actually score full 5 out of 5 in analytical paragraph. Hope the marking scheme is clear to you. Please go through it. Now, marking scheme is clear to you. Now, let's just see a sample analysis of a pie chart. Now, we all have done pie charts before, and we know that here we will get a question where also you will get the pie chart given, which will give us the complete data, the comparisons and everything we have. But what we have to do, we have to elaborate. You cannot elaborate on something that is not given here. We are not using or putting anything that is not given in the question. We only have to elaborate, describe what has been mentioned. Let's start with this topic. Study the pie chart given below, which represents the sources of air pollution in a city, and write an analytical paragraph in about 120 to 150 words interpreting the data, which means you only have to interpret the data. You are not supposed to write something that you feel that you want to mention. Only the data that is given has to be interpreted, comprehended and elaborated. So here we see some sources of emissions of air pollutants. Now, the color variations very clearly tells us that which is the highest, which is the lowest. Now, today we are discussing two different kinds of analytical paragraph. One is table, chart and graph, and the other is SWOT based analysis. Now, what is the difference between the two? Here, see, we have a comparison, we have trends, we will have figures. But for SWOT analysis, we do not have trends or figures. Here we have to compare. We have transportation 27%, we have consumer and commercial products 8%, commercial and residential heating at the very least percentage of 1. Then we have agriculture at 10%, others at 2%, industry at 52%. Now, just by looking at the picture, just by looking at the pie chart, isn't it very clear that which is the highest and which is the lowest? So, please be very clear, when you are writing an analytical paragraph, you have to mention the peak, the decline, the comparison, the contrasts and how it is going about. Maybe it is increasing gradually, maybe it is decreasing gradually, or it can also reach its peak very quickly. The rise can be very rapid. So the fluctuation, stagnancy or the decline, whatever it is given in the pie chart, in the graph, in the table, you have to mention that very clearly. Now see, here we don't have much things to elaborate. We only have a, please try to visualize the image that is given, and that only you have to describe. How will you begin? The given pie chart represents, the given graph represents or tells us. The given pie chart represents the sources of air pollution in a city. Now please carefully you note that this part is already given in the question. So we can start our introduction only by rewriting or just constructing our question in a different way. The largest contributor to air pollution is vehicular emissions, 45%, indicating that cars, buses and trucks are a major concern for air quality. Industrial pollution, 25%, is the second largest contributor caused by emissions from factories and manufacturing units. Construction activities, 15%, also play a significant role, as dust and debris released during building projects add to air pollution. Agricultural practices, 10%, such as stubble burning and the use of chemical fertilizers, further deteriorate air quality. Lastly, household emissions, 5%, including smoke from cooking and heating, contribute the least. Now we have here in the picture itself that Residential heating is at 1% and industrial heating is at 52%. The data highlights the urgent need for stricter pollution control measures such as promoting cleaner transportation, regulating industries and adopting eco-friendly construction techniques. Reducing emissions from these sources can help in improving air quality and ensuring a healthier environment. Now see, the topic which is given, the sources of emissions of air pollutants, that we are aware. We know what points we can include, but we will not, because we only have to interpret the data given, nothing more than that. So here only an introduction, the content and the conclusion. That is all we are looking for. But be careful with the content, and because it describes the facts, it describes whatever is given. Now, what is the format? I just discussed with you how you have to write. Here we have a proper point-wise format of the analytical paragraph. See, these are the things that the content of the paragraph must include. First is introduction, 1 or 2 lines about the context. As I told you, the question is given, you know that is the topic, and that can be your introduction if you can reconstruct and frame it properly. That what are we talking about today? The graph, the given pie chart, the given graph, the given table shows us or reflects or represents. You can start like this, where we are talking about the question itself in the introduction, but not more than 1 to 2 lines. If you make the introduction too lengthy, it becomes monotonous. So avoid using monotony anywhere when you are writing. Next is body. Explain in detail the trends, figures and comparisons. So as I discussed that the body of the analytical paragraph is very important, and what are we discussing here? We are discussing in details only the trends, figures, comparisons, whatever is given. You are not including your own opinion. Conclusion is overall view of the given chart, graph or bar. Now in conclusion, you will have to write that we can conclude with, or it can be concluded that. You will not use like I think or we think, because we are not using personal opinions at all in analytical paragraph. After the format, sample, some proper way how you have to write the paragraph, we have some simple tips which can help you to understand the method of the analytical paragraph. Now this is applicable for graphs, tables as well as for SWOT analysis. First, see, paragraph should be brief, precise and well directed, 120 to 150 words. Very important that you maintain the word limit. It has to be well directed. You are not diverging from the question. You are not writing anything unnecessary. You only have to write whatever is given, whatever is asked. So that has to be precise, crisp, yet it has to be written in a very fluent language. Easy and clear language. As I just told you, do not complicate the content. You write whatever is given, you interpret, you understand, and finally you put down your paragraph. Describe only given facts and data. Again, going back to the same thing, facts, data, whatever topic is given, you only have to write that, nothing other than what is asked. Please do not write what you know, write what is asked. Avoid personal opinions. Do not use first person pronouns. So you will not use pronouns like I, we, us, because we are talking about facts. It doesn't depend upon you or me. It depends upon what is given in the chart, what is given in the table or a graph. Lastly, maintain the tense. Whichever tense you are using, maintain that one throughout the paragraph. Please do not diverge from the tenses. Like you start with simple present and in the middle you write something in simple past. That makes really no sense throughout the paragraph, which is why at the beginning I told you read and reread so that you avoid these kind of silly mistakes. Now, done with the graphs, tables, bars, pie chart, the format, The marking scheme and the tips is applicable for all the paragraphs, but we saw a sample of a pie chart. Now we will move on to SWOT analysis. Now before we begin with SWOT analysis, which is also a part of the analytical paragraph, we should know what is SWOT analysis. Now, what does SWOT stand for? You see, we have here S, W, O and T. These are the 4 words that make up the word SWOT, right? Now, what is S? S stands for strength, O stands for opportunities, W stands for weaknesses and T stands for threats. But why have I written it like this and not one after the other? Because the letters S and O, which is strength and opportunities, it gives us the positive effect of the analysis. It can, like a SWOT analysis will give you a topic and ask you to write for or against the motion or the topic. So you have to know, you have to read and understand, interpret that whether the topic that is given, the strengths, the opportunities, the weaknesses and the threats that are given, whether you are for the topic or you are against it. Don't worry, we will go to the sample. Before that, let's learn what does strength stand for. Strength is something that is positive. It tells us what we can do, what we are good at, what we can nail at, what is our forte, right? So, strength and opportunities. If after reading that entire question and going through the SWOT that is given, you can understand whether the strengths are more, opportunities are good, or the negative parts which we can use for against the motion, that is actually more. Whether weaknesses are more, threats are more, that is completely up to you. Now, if you think that the strengths and opportunities which are given, you can write on that, the topic actually goes by the motion, then you can write for the topic. But if you find that no, the question that is given, according to that, the weaknesses, the threats are more than the strength or the opportunities, which means it's going towards the negative points, that is against the motion. So this will help you to understand whether you write for it or against it. Moving to the next slide, this is a sample of SWOT analysis. See, here we have a question, we have all the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats given here. Now, after reading the question that is mentioned here and after going through all the strength, weakness, opportunities and threats, it is for you to decide whether you write for it or against it. Now, once I read the question, we are going for the motion. I will discuss with you how will you write if you write in favor of the topic. Let's go for the question. Gurmeet Kaur is an aspiring candidate for a public funded engineering college in the suburbs. Suburbs as in an outlying district of a city, not really a proper town. She belongs to a nearby village, has minimal technological skills and exposure, has the required cutoff percentage and is looking for a complete or partial scholarship. Now, whether you should write for it or against it, let's go through the strengths. What are the strengths? It has a strong curriculum, quality faculty, vibrant activity clubs, green location, close proximity to residential areas. Opportunities, practice-based research, partnership with professional organizations, strong alumni, acclaimed student exchange program with European countries. Now, these are the positive parts. We will write for the motion today, we will discuss for the topic, but what are the weaknesses? What are the threats? Lack of diversity, students' behavioral problems, no hostel facility, slow repair and maintenance work, underutilization of IT services, lack of targeted advertisements to outstate students. And what are the threats? Lack of publicity in areas of excellence, public perception towards funded colleges, declining students' interest towards technical subjects, low employee morale due to budget cuts. Now, you very clearly have a lot of strengths opportunities given as well as weaknesses and threats given. Now you will decide whether you will write for the motion or you should write against it. In favor, the given information illustrates the options Gurmeet would weigh in order to take the right decision about her admission in a public funded engineering college. A public funded college, which means it's not private. With availability of strong curriculum, quality faculty and vibrant activity clubs, she will be assured of an enriching educational journey. So we are looking at the positive side of the admission. Though hostel facility is unavailable, she may take accommodation in the suburbs or choose to travel daily from her village. Good opportunities of practice-based research, partnership with professional companies and international students exchange program will enhance her professional and interpersonal skills. Hard work, responsible behavior and prudent decision making could help Gurmeet thrive in the college even though it has a rigid and conventional culture. The strengths and opportunities work in favor of Gurmeet. Taking this opportunity will allow her to mend the incorrect public perception towards public funded colleges and students' outlook towards technical subject. So what we have done here, we have taken the positives, what are the opportunities, what are the strengths, and it somehow makes us feel that no, taking admission at a public funded college might be beneficial for Gurmeet. These are the positive points, she can go by this. So here we have the answer key of for the topic, for the motion. Now, once we finished with the analytical paragraphs, both graph tables, charts and also SWOT analysis, I hope that basics of this is clear to you. By now we all are aware, quite aware of what we have to do, how we have to go about the paragraphs, but these are some simple tips and tricks that I discussed with you where you can try to enrich your potential towards the topic. Now, next we will move on to reading. Till now we were discussing about writing skills. Now we move to reading. Reading as in unseen passage. Section A, compulsory, both the topics that will be given to you, one discursive and the other factual. Today we will discuss discursive passage as well as factual passage. Now, what are the differences? Why do we call it discursive and why do we call it factual? Let's check. Now, as you can see, a discursive passage basically is very much dependent on your perception. It is perceptive, opinion based, debatable, argumentative, which means it does not really have facts that is common to all. Discursive passage means you can have an argument over the topic, you can debate over the topic. It can be my perception that I understand something from this passage, but your perception can be something different. So, discursive passage basically gives us such a motion where we cannot sometimes agree to what you understand or what I understand. Examples. How do you understand this particular passage is discursive? Firstly, you should definitely know that it has to be perceptive, opinion based. It can vary from person to person. But some examples of topics which will help you understand that, okay, when you read the passage, you know that this is discursive passage. This is not factual. Topics like technology. Now, advancement of technology is a fact, definitely, but whether it is helpful, beneficial, or it is actually not helping, that is up to us. Whether we want advancement of technology or we do not want it, that is really up to you and me separately. Next, coming to friendship. Now, if we have a passage on friendship, how do you perceive friendship? How do I perceive friendship? Or how does a third person perceive friendship? That is very debatable. That is argumentative. So, we cannot really state facts about friendship. It might vary from person to person. Third, we have organic food. Now, any topic that is given will definitely have some facts, some realities, something which doesn't really align with the topic. But we can discuss whether the use of organic food is good or we should not use it. Online learning versus traditional classrooms. Now, we are all aware of online learning now, and we also know the impact of traditional classrooms. Now, whether you want online learning, is it beneficial for you, helpful for you? Maybe you are traveling, maybe you are not able to travel to a school, you possibly want to stay home and learn better things. That is also up to you, it's your choice. So, whether traditional classrooms are better or online learning is better, that is again debatable, that is argumentative, that is perceptive, opinion based. So these kind of topics which does not really state one fact common to all comes under discursive passage. Now moving on to factual passage. What does factual passage consist of? Facts, data. Facts and data, as in you cannot really write your personal opinions. It doesn't really matter where we already have. Remember, in analytical paragraph we discussed that we are interpreting data. So when interpreting facts or data, your comprehension only remains according to the points given, according to the passage given. It does not really ask for what you feel. It only asks for what is given and from that what you understand. And when it is factual, the word factual itself tells us that it is full of facts. So if it has facts, we really cannot write our own opinion. We cannot really argue over this. Coming to the topics, examples, how will you understand that this particular passage is actually factual? This is not discursive. Here we cannot debate over this. We cannot argue. We cannot write our own perception or opinions. Water cycle. Now, water cycle does not change on how you think or I think or how we want. It basically has its own process, facts, data that will be given as a passage, and from there you have to write the answers of the question. Renewable, non-renewable resources. This is also factual. You cannot really write what you think about these products. You have to definitely write whatever is given. You only have data, you have information about this, you will write direct answers from the given context. Global warming. Again, we do not have our own perception about global warming. We cannot write how I feel about global warming or how can it change or what I think. It is reality. It is factual. Whatever will happen, and that we all know. It cannot vary from person to person. Scientific discovery, human body. Now going through all the topics, if you really try to differentiate, you will see that these are the topics where we can discuss. But these are the topics which are facts. We really cannot discuss over these topics, but we can actually write facts about these which are reality. Moving on to the next slide. What are the simple tips? Now, you just learnt two kinds of passages, discursive, factual. What are the differences? Some examples. Hope you are clear with that now. Now let's discuss about simple tips. How will you try to score 10 on 10 on each of the passages? Overall 20. Very easily you can get full marks in section A, and that should be your goal. First is practice reading. Because you know that when you start reading the comprehension, sitting in your exams, the first thing comes to your mind is maybe you are really unable to comprehend because firstly you are anticipated for your exam and then you are sitting for your boards, but there's nothing to worry. You sit calm and composed, start reading the passage, and before that what you have to do, you have to practice reading. Read more and more unseen passages, research for those passages, try to find out your answers, see, fix a time that whether you are able to find out the answers within time, you understand the passage or not, how well you interpret. Both the passages, discursive and factual, sit fixed time and try to solve them, the passage. So you have to read enough unseen passages as much as you can. Devote a complete evening for this and start reading unseen passages. Fix your time and see that you are doing really well in this. Now coming to our next slide, simple tips. You have just learned the two different kinds of passages, discursive and factual. You know which topics are factual, which topics are discursive. Now we will learn some simple tips that will help you to score 20 out of 20 in section A. Do not anticipate or panic while reading the comprehension. It will be easy for you to understand if you remember some very simple tips and tricks. Starting with the first one, practice reading. Read enough unseen passages. Now, please go through unseen passages enough and try to solve them. Fix your time, sit with unseen passages and see whether you can read, understand, comprehend and solve the paper or not. Please fix your own time. That section A, you only need 30 minutes to finish and both the passages should be done correctly, whether you are able to do or not. But I am very sure if you follow these simple tips, you will be able to get full 20 marks for section A. And that definitely should be your aim. Next is focus, read, think, rethink. You have to focus on the passage that is given. You will not start thinking by yourself that this sentence might mean this, might mean that. You focus on whatever is given. It's written and you are reading it, trying to focus on what it is. Do not try to interpret or start thinking something unnecessary for that particular passage. Follow keywords. Now we know that keyword is something very important for your English exam. We always tell you to underline keywords. Here also, for your unseen passages, please follow words which are strange, uncommon, which we do not use frequently. Those keywords might have some significance when you go through the question of the passage. So please be very, very careful and focus on keywords. Next, moving to relevant details. Now we have to focus on relevant details. We will not try to think on what is unnecessary, something irrelevant. We really do not have that much time to waste. We will only read and focus on relevant details whichever is given. Do not dwell on a particular sentence. There is one sentence which has some kind of meaning which you are unable to interpret, unable to understand, and you literally give 5 minutes on that sentence. You cannot do that. What you have to do is you have to move on to the next sentence. You have to finish reading. An overall understanding summary will be there in your mind, but just for one word, one sentence which is difficult for you, you do not spend so much time on that. Now this is applicable throughout your paper. Something that will take time. Do not dwell on that question, on that sentence, on that word for long. You can read the questions first and get back to the passage. Why I am saying this, once you start reading the passage from the beginning, what happens is you start reading and interpreting your own understanding. But what happens if you read the question first? If you read the questions and then you go back to the passage, then what happens is you can try to find out the answers which are asked in the question. That will make your task easier. You will understand and it will be easier for you to interpret what is given in the passage, what they are actually asking from you from the passage. So first you see the question. If the question aligns with that answer, while you are reading, you underline that part. Don't underline on your question paper, but at least you understand that this part is the answer for the question. So first you read the question, understanding will definitely be easier for you to write. Write in your own words. Now, sometimes I have seen a common mistake, that is you write something that is given directly, but you have to actually change, reconstruct the sentence. So if you are not putting in your own efforts, after all this is language. So you have to put in your own efforts, you have to write in your own words, your creativity. That has to be very much reflecting on your paper. You have to write your own sentences. Definitely there will be answers where you cannot make twists and turns. You have to write direct answers, but still try to write your own sentences. Use your own creativity. That definitely, will fetch you more marks. Moving on to the next slide. Sample of discursive passage. Now, I hope you remember, as we just discussed, what is a discursive passage? A topic that can be discussed about, argued, opinion based, perception based. So see, here the topic given is impact of social media, whether it is a boon or a bane, whether social media is really beneficial or is it harmful for us. Now, we can have different opinions about this topic, right? Not everyone will agree with the fact that social media has good impacts, but also there will be people who will say that no, it really has positive effects. Some will say it has negative effects. So that is very much dependent on a particular individual's perception. So I will just read out the passage for you so that you understand what I actually mean by a discursive passage. Social media has revolutionized communication, bringing people closer regardless of distance. It allows instant messaging, video calls and global connectivity, making the world more interconnected. Now, it has revolutionized a lot of things. What? We already have words. So, you have to be very careful while you go through words, bringing people closer regardless of distance. It allows, what does it allow? It again is giving us some kind of information. It allows instant messaging, video calls and global connectivity, making the world more interconnected. Please focus on the key words. Moreover, it serves as a powerful platform for businesses, education and social awareness. Many individuals have gained fame and financial success through social media, while students use it for learning and research. So, how is it helpful for financial success and how students are using it? A lot of information already in the first passage. So, once you read the passage, you focus on important points, definitely the passage is going to be very clear in your mind. Moving on to the second passage, second part. However, excessive use of social media has negative consequences. Definitely, we know that everything has two sides, one positive, one negative. So, here we are discussing about negative consequences, because this is again a discursive one, because here we are not stating facts, here we are stating perceptions, opinions. It often leads to addiction, reducing productivity and mental well-being. Studies indicate that prolonged screen time can cause, what can it cause? Anxiety, depression and sleep disturbances. Moreover, misinformation spreads rapidly, influencing public opinion and sometimes leading to harmful consequences. Cyberbullying is another serious issue, affecting mental health, especially among teenagers. Now see how we move on from a positive effect to a negative effect, how it is affecting people, society, teenagers, students, what are the benefits and what are the harmful effects. So we see how we cannot really reach to a factual conclusion. Here we are somewhere in between a debate. Despite its drawbacks, social media is neither entirely good nor bad. It depends on how one uses it. We know that, right? That if you use social media or technology, whatever, wisely, your outcome will be wise. Otherwise, we can have harmful consequences. Responsible usage, digital literacy, and mindful engagement can maximize its benefits while minimizing risks. Therefore, rather than blaming technology, individuals should adopt a balanced approach to social media usage. Now, see, these are all facts that we know, but it is very much dependent on us that how we use it, how we go about this. So, I hope this passage is very clear to you that how it does not really give a fact that is based on, that is common to all of us. It is very much dependent on how I use it or how I perceive social media, how much you use it wisely, how you perceive it, what is your opinion towards social media. So we cannot conclude very factually. We have positive effects, we have negative effects, but for global warming, we know it is negative. We cannot have positive effects for global warming. So that is fact, but this is debatable. So hope this sample of discursive passage is clear. Moving on to the next slide. We have sample of factual passage. Now as I discussed, factual is something that will not change for you or me. We cannot perceive factual passage. Renewable, the importance of renewable energy. Renewable energy refers to energy derived from natural sources that replenish themselves over time, such as sunlight, wind and water. So here we have a definition, we have examples. Very, very important part. So once you are reading, you know that this is the definition given and we also have examples here. So as I told you, you have to focus relevant details, important points which are given. Unlike fossil fuels, renewable energy is sustainable and environmentally friendly as it does not produce harmful emissions that contribute to climate change. So in the first part itself, you have a lot of information and these are facts. You are not thinking about your own perception over renewable energy. Solar energy. One of the most widely used renewable sources is harnessed through solar panels, converting sunlight into electricity. Again, it is an information. How it is done? So we know this part equally is important because it is factual. Every part we read is important. It is fact. So you will not dwell on something that you don't understand, but you will know because this is factual. Each and every line is important for you to understand. Wind energy is another key source generated by wind turbines that capture the kinetic energy of moving air. Again, very much a fact and information which you cannot change based on your own opinion. So you know that this again is an important data, an important fact that is given. Hydropower, derived from flowing water, is one of the oldest renewable energy. So again we know that we are talking about an oldest renewable energy where we can think or take hydropower as an important part here, where we can have questions from this part. Sources and is used extensively in many countries. The shift towards renewable energy is essential to reduce dependence on fossil fuels, which are depleting rapidly. Governments worldwide are investing in clean energy solutions to combat pollution. Why are they investing on clean energy solutions? To combat pollution and global warming. However, challenges such as high initial costs and dependency on weather conditions need to be addressed for widespread adoption. Now you see here each and every line is telling us something that is very real, that is very factual. Here we cannot really have our own thought process. We already have the given facts, we only have to understand it. Embracing renewable energy not only conserves the environment but also ensures long-term economic and energy security. With technological advancements, renewable energy is becoming more accessible, making it a crucial component of a sustainable future. So what are the positive points of it? Why are we using it? That is also given in the last part. So you understand the difference, right, between discursive and factual passage. Why are we discussing it in details? Because we want you to attain full marks for the section A, because it is compulsory and you do not have options. You have to attempt both the passages. It's very important that you learn both the passages, you practice reading very much, you follow the tips that has been mentioned, and also thoroughly you read the passages, go through the keywords, try to understand, read the questions first, so that you know that once you start reading the passage, that this part of the passage has been asked in the question. That means this is an important part. You will quickly find your answers if you start with reading the questions first. Now, after this entire discussion of analytical paragraph and discursive factual passages, I have given you some tips, some ways what you should follow in order to achieve or attain full marks in these sections. But I would like to discuss some last minute preparation tips that is not only just based or that not only aligns with analytical paragraph or grammar or reading, but it is an overall preparation tip for you. So firstly, I would like to discuss about solving question papers. Now already you have solved sample papers that had been given to you. So you know that whether you ace the paper within time or not, whether you finish reading the question paper completely within your reading time or not, whether you can draw the margins within time, whether you underline keywords or not, everything will be done only if you repeatedly solve sample papers. That will help you complete the paper within time, accurately and very correctly during your board exams. So please start solving at least last 5 years sample question paper. Please do practice sample papers. You will definitely have a great exam. Revise sample papers issued by CBSE. So again the same thing, that you have to revise the papers. You have to see that what are the common questions that had been given previously. What are the questions that you can avoid but not really neglect. You have to have an idea over the chapters. Which chapters do you see get the most significance in question? Which poems are important? My suggestion, please be very vigilant with the poems, with the names of the poets, authors, chapters, everything. It should be very clear in your mind. And also the sample papers, definitely once you start doing it, everything will come into place. So section wise you fix time and you solve it. This is very important because this is language paper. It can be lengthy. You have to finish writing, you have to finish comprehension, you have to do grammar work, you have to write literature, and everything within 3 hours. So please start practicing sample question papers. Third is focus on commonly asked questions in literature. As I told you, if you go through the sample papers, you will already know that which is important, which is not that important. You cannot really leave out anything like that, but you understand that this chapter, this poem has been repeatedly been asked in your question paper, which means you can pay more and more attention to this chapter. So please be very careful with that. Once you start solving sample papers, everything that we are discussing here will fall into place. Next we have make a cheat sheet for grammar rules and formats. You take a paper and you write down just the formats, just the rules in your mind, not like discussing examples or solving the papers only. That you are anyway doing for your in your sample papers. What I'm asking you to do is, in a paper you write the format, letter writing, letter to editor or inquiry letter, whatever you have, you just write the formats so that that is clear in your mind. Once you sit for your exam, that paper should be there in your mind clearly, that yes, I know this is the format of letter writing, this is the format of analytical paragraph, these are the rules if I get this question from grammar. How to write direct indirect speech, what are the key points, how do we change the sentences, everything that you do for your grammar, for your writing, you just make a sheet where you will only write the formats, the key points, the rules, not like solving exercises. That is for you to do already by now. Definitely get a good night's sleep before the exam. Please do not overstress yourself before the night of your exam, because if you do not really take proper rest, if you don't sleep properly, when you sit for your exams, everything that you have done, that will be there in your mind continuously. You will be perplexed, anticipating, panicking, but we don't want that. You take enough time, practice everything well in advance, prepare yourself for your board exams, and before every exam, take proper rest, proper time, and a very nice sleep, so that when you start with your comprehension passage, you can comprehend your paper really well. Apart from this, I can only wish you all the best for your board exams. You will definitely do very well. Wishing all of you all the best for your board exams. And before we end, I would like to remind you that we are up with a lot of videos for your benefit. Please go through the channel, go through the videos which will help you to prepare much better for your board exams. Thank you.